Welcome to Molecular Nutrition, where food becomes molecules, molecules power cells, and cells sustain life. This course is a 3-unit course, which means that you're going to be having 3 hours of lectures within a semester, which in principle is about 15 weeks. So in total, we are envisaging about 45 lecture hours for the course. The course is an introductory course, and you probably have noticed that it's a new course that we are introducing. It's part of the CCMAS curriculum that we are implementing in the department, and you already have a hint about this curriculum. So the CCMAS curriculum is a new curriculum which the current 200 level students are taking, and the curriculum is being implemented with them. They began in 100 level, and we have taken advantage of this new curriculum to separate your biochemistry courses, and instead of going to biochemistry to take some courses, we have decided to introduce this course within the Department of Nutrition, and NUT 204 is one of those courses. So in this course, we're going to be looking at nutrients and how they operate at the molecular level. I'm going to be giving you the overview of the course, and we'll go through them very quickly. The course as designed is going to be over over 15 weeks, and we have already structured how each of the different topics is going to play along within the first to 15th week. So in the first week, we're going to be introducing the course. In the second week, between the second and third weeks, we'll be looking at cell membranes, how nutrients cross the cells, and how nutrients are transported across cells. So we'll be zooming into the structure of cell membranes and these transport mechanisms, but while keeping at the back of our mind that we are in nutrition and we'll always be dealing with nutrients. Between week 4 and 5, we'll be looking at amino acids and proteins. In the 6th and 7th week, we'll be looking at carbohydrates. We'll be looking at the structure of carbohydrates, and we wouldn't be going deep into biochemistry, but we'll be looking at how the structure of these nutrients, carbohydrates and proteins, how they affect their functions. Then one important aspect of the course is the continuous assessment. We're going to be having constant continuous assessment. We'll have a holistic assessment. Then we'll proceed to look at the lipids, looking at them from the aspect of structure and function. We'll look at enzymes, coenzymes, vitamins. We'll look at how coenzymes work in tandem with vitamins and how they play a role in metabolism. And in around the 13th week, we'll be looking at nucleic acids, our DNAs, our RNAs, and how they feature. Then in the 14th week, we'll be looking at the immune molecules. So what are those molecules that help to protect us, to fight germs and prevent diseases? And how do they carry out this responsibility? So this is basically what the course is going to offer you in 15 weeks. Okay, the course is divided into several modules, and like I said, we'll be going deeper into the modules. In the first module, it will just be basically an introductory module, where we'll be looking at the scope and relevance of molecular nutrition. It's good to understand nutrients as molecular entities. So we will gradually be forming a frame of mind, if I'm going to put it like that, to begin to see nutrients as molecular entities. Although nutrients are found in foods, but how do they interact with our cells to nourish us at the molecular level? Then we'll be drawing some attention to how molecular nutrition as a course sits between biochemistry, which you are currently doing in your different currently in 200 level, but also how this course sits between biochemistry and clinical nutrition and diet therapy. So all this we'll be doing in the first module. In the second module, we'll enter deeply into cell membranes. So we'll go into the nature of cell membranes, the structure of cell membranes. You recall that cell membranes have a phospholipid bilayer structure. We'll be looking at how cells and cell membranes are organized. Keep in mind, if we're looking at the transport of nutrients across membranes, how does this transport happen based on the organization of the cell membrane? So what kind of transports are we talking about? And what is the mechanism behind all this transport across different biological membranes? Keeping in mind that biological membranes could be found in intestine, for example, but not necessarily. So you may be looking at biological membranes in the nerves, right? It could be in the intestine. It could be in nerves, like I said. It could be in, even take for example, it could be in red blood cells, for example. So we have different kind of membranes, and how do these transports happen within these membranes? In the third module, we'll be looking at amino acids, the types of amino acids, essential amino acids, non-essential amino acids. What are the essentials? What are the non-essentials? So we'll be looking at the mnemonic for the essential amino acids. I'm sure you have heard about PVT Team Hall for the essential amino acids. So there's this general mnemonic that is used to memorize, the different amino acids: phenylalanine, valine, methionine, histidine, and so on and so forth. So why are they essentials? Why are they non-essential? Because essential should be in diet, and the body does not produce it, so it has to essentially be in diet. So we'll be looking at that. We'll also be looking at their chemical properties. We'll be looking at the peptides and protein structure, the bonds of proteins, and the levels of organizations of proteins, the primary, secondary, tertiary, quaternary structure. And we'll be looking at different nutrients, hormones, that examples of hormones, for example, insulin, which is basically the primary structure of protein, or represents the primary structure of protein. We will go from there to consider the different functions and reactions of amino acids and proteins. We'll be considering enzymatic and structural proteins. So proteins have different roles. Some of them, they perform enzymatic roles for breaking, say for example, foods in the stomach, pepsin, for example, chymotrypsin, for example. They are all proteins, but sometimes proteins play structural roles like our keratin in our hair and skin. So what happens when these proteins denature under certain conditions like heat and temperature? And of course, how proteins, how they feature and the roles they play in our metabolism. In Module 4, we will zoom in to the chemistry of carbohydrates, how they are classified, for example, the monosaccharides, what makes them, what makes the oligosaccharides, how many number of chains must the sugar or carbohydrate have for you to be able to classify as monosaccharides, oligosaccharides, or polysaccharides. We'll look at all that, and we'll look at the structural diversity of carbohydrates and the roles this structural diversity plays in our bodies. So take, for example, some carbohydrates are stored in the animal cell. The excess carbohydrates are stored as glycogen in the liver, sometimes in some plants as cellulose. What makes this structure exactly what they are, and what makes them suitable for this, what makes this carbohydrate suitable to play these functions? Okay, we will look at the chemistry. So in a sugar to sugar bond, what kind of bonds do we have in a sugar to sugar when a glucose pairs with a glucose, and so on and so forth? The chemical and biochemical reactions, and we'll look at some industrial significance of carbohydrates as well. Then in the 5th module, we'll look at lipids, the structure like we did for carbohydrates and proteins, the simple compound lipids, derived lipids, fatty acids, which is the smallest unit of a lipid or fat. We'll then look at the lipid chemistry, biological functions, some reactions. We'll look at cholesterol, which forms a huge part of the cell membrane, prostaglandins, carotenoids, and we'll look at their roles in membranes and in metabolism. In the 6th module, we'll look at the different vitamins and coenzymes. The water-soluble vitamins, what makes them, the fat-soluble vitamins, what makes them, their classifications, their chemical properties. We'll be looking at coenzymes, how vitamins play coenzymes, and how these coenzymes work in cellular metabolism, in many enzymatic reactions, and how they play a molecular basis for vitamin function. Then as we begin to round up, we'll consider nucleic acids, which forms the backbone of DNA and RNA. We will look at these DNAs and RNAs and how they form the molecular basis of our heredity, how we inherit this from our parents and how we transmit it to our offsprings. We'll be looking at how DNA and RNA is replicated. We're looking at transcription, translation, basically how DNA is converted to RNA, that's transcription, and how RNA is converted to proteins, that's translation. We will not be going deep into this, but we'll be looking at it on a peripheral basis. Then we'll look at protein synthesis and the relevance of protein synthesis to nutrition and metabolism. In the last module, we will consider immune molecules and how they protect us from diseases. We'll be looking at these immune substances in our bodies, the immunoglobulins and the antigens, their structure. We all know that they are proteins, but we'll be looking at their structure and their nutritional relevance and how they protect us from diseases. So, in a nutshell, in the course of the semester, we'll be going from these topics, and hopefully in 15 weeks, we should be able to cover all these topics. So, It's going to be an interesting 15 weeks. I want to use this opportunity to encourage you to study along. So as we move and progress in the course, you will need to support or complement your lecture slides and the lectures themselves with textbooks. I cannot overemphasize this. Through this curriculum, we're trying to foster the habit of study. So you will need to complement the slides and the lectures with textbooks. We will provide you some reference textbooks, but the whole burden will be on you to understand at a deeper level the mechanisms and the principles which we are trying to convey. This can only happen when you take responsibility for your learning. Don't forget that we can only do as much to try to explain all these principles to you, but if you do not internalize them through proper study, it will be very difficult for you to really learn them. We have tried to make the course progressive, trying to begin from simple knowledge, walking you through more complex knowledge. So it will then mean that you will need to grasp those simple knowledge first, understand them, before layering on them more advanced concepts. So with this, I want to welcome you to NUT 204, and it is my wish, my prayer and desire that you reap the benefits of this course, and this course contributes immensely in helping you to not just understand the molecular basis of nutrition, but also to prepare you for more advanced courses as you climb the ladder in the course and in your program.